Hi everyone, we're going to look at some backhand throwing teaching cues for the sport of disc golf that you can use with your students or help anyone new to the game learn how to properly throw a backhand throw. I'm going to highlight 4 different teaching cue sets that you can try out for different age groups, and feel free to pause the video at any point to look at them more. Okay, so the first one works really well for high school and middle school, has a few extra points of emphasis to really focus on, and it goes into a little more detail than the other ones that I'll highlight here. This one is good for all ages, a little easier to remember with the ABC breakdown, and just a few teaching points to remember. This is my personal favorite, especially for elementary school, using a story of being on a skateboard. Students really seem to remember the different points of emphasis with this and connect with it. And then this is another one I've used, especially for elementary school, and just using kind of a metaphor of being on a surfboard. So very similar to the skateboard one, but another one you can try out. So I'm going to go into a little more detail now in a video here of me just going through how I might teach it, and just so you can visually see what we're looking for. Again, feel free to back up, rewind, pause at any point. First, before we get going on the throw, teaching students the grip, you want to make sure your thumb's on top, you have your 4 fingers are on the bottom. You can either use a fan grip, like so, or a power grip, where you kind of hold the lip of the disc underneath. A fan grip is a little more used for control, power grip for more distance. I like to teach students the fan grip. When you're holding the disc, you want to make sure that when you're teaching them that their hand is firmly against the disc. Sometimes students will kind of hold it flimsily. I show them, hey, so do you guys see how I'm holding the disc? Do you see how my thumb's on top, my 4 fingers are on the bottom? But more importantly, do you see how right now, do you see a hole in between the disc and my hand? We don't want that. We want to, like we're shaking the disc's hand, we want to be firm against the disc, and you shouldn't see any holes. It should be tight against the disc. Pre-COVID times, I'll come by and I'll say you should hold it firm enough so that if I come by and pull on it, you won't be letting go. You're holding it really tight. And just going over again, showing them a couple times. Okay, am I holding it firmly right now? No, especially with elementary kids. Nope, you can see that hole, right? Can you see the hole now? And although you can kind of see a little hole right now in the video if you're far away, especially with showing the kids, they can't see the hole. Is this good? Nope. How about now? So that's the first point. If they're not holding the disc properly, they have no chance of having any success really throwing the discs and learning how to throw properly. So here are a few teaching cues you can try with your students to help them remember how to perform a backhand throw in disc golf. So unlike putting, you're not facing the basket. You want to be sideways to the basket. You can talk about using a surfboard. You're on the surfboard and you're going surfing. You're not going to be facing the basket. I bring my skateboard, and even though I can't skateboard because I teach elementary school, they really think I'm cool. I don't know why, but you know them, they're easy to please in elementary. A lot of nice skateboards, I got for $10 at Canadian Tire, but hey, whatever works. So I'm on the skateboard, right? If I'm on the skateboard like this, am I going to be able to get to my basket? Yeah, I am. If I'm on the skateboard like this, I can go towards my basket. But if I'm facing the basket like this and I'm on the skateboard, am I going to eventually reach my destination going like this on my skateboard? No, so that means, imagine you're on a skateboard, you need to be sideways to get to that basket. And that's the same with disc golf. So I'm on my skateboard, I'm able to get to that basket. I'm going to reach back, and what I'll tell them is, I'm going to just say that you want to reach back to the back of the skateboard. Or another thing is, if I'm telling them to surf, I'll say you're surfing, you're getting hungry, so you're going to reach back for a healthy snack. And we'll pretend this is a plate. So reach back for a healthy snack, put some food on your plate. And now, You're gonna bring your arm forward because you wanna eat that plate. You wanna eat some food on that plate. You're gonna bring it forward, and then you're gonna notice there's a wall of jelly, a thin layer of jelly, or you could say there's a brick wall or drywall, and you're gonna break that wall with your elbow. You wanna bust through it. I don't know where that wall came from, but it's there. You're gonna bust through that wall with your elbow, and then you're gonna follow through. So, I'm on my skateboard, my surfboard, whatever works. You're older, you tell them, you gotta be sideways to your target. You reach back, or you're reaching back for a snack, or you're just reaching to the back of your skateboard, whatever works for you, whatever you wanna try out. And then you're breaking through that wall that came out of nowhere, break that wall down, and then you're following through, you're snapping your wrists. I'll show you another video right now to show you what it looks like, kind of.
It's the best stat of our entire tournament at this point.
And it swings it. Got some hops. Here's Heimberg.
Ooh, look at the control he had there.
Shot, go in.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, no! What a start! Wow, I told you hole one could be a momentum builder. Oh my goodness, was it ever? If he wasn't rolling yet. Wow, an eagle too. Let's see this again. This has to be over 200 feet.
Go in.
Yeah, let's see. What is UDisc saying here?
Heimberg's pulled it a little bit.
Beats that tree on the right.
Never mind.
What a shot.
Again, the teaching cues for the skateboard, right? You're on your skateboard, you reach back to the back of your skateboard, you break the wall that you're skateboarding towards, you break through the wall, you snap your wrists, and you throw. The next thing you can do, the next day, or later on if you have a double class maybe in phys ed, or you have a longer class because you teach high school, talking about the disc and keeping it flat. It is true the professionals, they throw it on angles for different sort of shots, but right now we're really focusing on just getting it straight and having the disc have a nice flight. So having that disc be straight, flat, all the way through versus up and down or down and up or on a little bit of an angle. For learning, it doesn't work well. And you don't get that glide. So what I like to say is, have you ever seen a waiter or a waitress and they have a big dish and there's other dishes on top, and so they're holding their plate of food like this. They're walking through the restaurant. Now, what would happen if you had spaghetti and meatballs and if the waiter or waitress were walking like this? What would happen? Well, of course, the spaghetti and meatballs would roll off. Same if it was like this, or like this, or like this. So we want to imagine when we're throwing our disc that there are spaghetti and meatballs on our plate, and so I'm going to do the same thing I just did, but now I'm focusing on kind of keeping it between the top of my chest and my hips, keeping that disc at that level, and reaching back and keeping it flat. So you can see how my disc is flat. I have spaghetti and meatballs. They're not coming off my plate right now. It would come off my plate, right? Same here. So really focusing on that. Every day you can be even more, if you're doing middle school and high school and even like elementary school, upper elementary school, if you're doing this for club or you're spending a lot of time on disc golf, you can focus a little more on details. Things like instead of just being sideways, you actually want to have your heel. So if I'm right-handed, my leg that's closer to the basket, my heel, we want it to line up with the toe of my other foot. So like I imagine there's a line right here. My heel is lining up with my foot. We actually don't want them perfectly parallel. So like this, sideways, my shoulders sideways to the target. I actually don't want to be looking at the basket unless it's a shorter throw, but if I want a far throw, I actually want to extend my arm all the way back as far as I can, nice and straight, pointing directly the opposite way from where my target is. And I then want to come and smash that wall, and then I want to be rotating my hips. Just like when you do an overhand throw, you face sideways, you point your toe and your hips towards the basket or the target or the pitcher's glove, and you rotate and follow through. Same thing with disc golf. You're sideways, although you want your toe and heel not to be perfectly parallel, line up like that. I'll have my foot kind of planted, kind of on the ball, my foot back, forth, and rotating on the follow through, rotating, breaking that wall, rotating, and snapping that hand and following through. And when we're throwing, your eyes should actually be on the disc. Well, not literally, but your head, as it's turning, you can just kind of remember you're following the disc. So if my disc is back here, my head actually should be that way. Because if I'm here, and even if I'm looking that way or straight forward, you can see how far I can reach back. If I'm this way, you can see how much farther I reach back, and that equals power. Just kind of like when you're skating or you're jumping, knee bend equals power. Well, in disc golf, your reach back equals power. Not that you always need a big reach back, but if you're working on driving it and getting far distance, that's what you want to be learning. So again, maybe more high school and more advanced, but something you can teach. So follow it with your eyes. Head should be now here, as my disc is here, and as I follow through, then you can kind of, your head can follow as you're rotating your hips. But again, kind of like golf, you don't want to take your eye off the ball, so it's better to over-exaggerate, not looking at your follow-through, rather than looking up early. Like if I'm looking up here, and then that's where it's going to go way left, or it's just not going to fly how you want. And again, keeping that disc flat. So that it can glide all the way through versus going like that and going like a very common thing, up and down, and then it's going high in the air. The oxygen, or no, I'm getting a little tired, long school day. The air is getting caught, the disc is getting caught under, the air getting underneath, and then it's just going to slowly go back down and not get that nice glide and let the disc work. If you're middle school and high school and you just want to keep it really simple, what you can do is just sideways to the basket, arm back, break the door, follow through. Now, pretty sweet backhand. If only I can do that if the basket's 300 feet away, but you know what I'm talking about. And of course, keeping that disc flat. So a common thing you're going to see often with some of your students, especially elementary years, is them making a C. When they pull back, instead of reaching back straight, they'll twist their body and they'll make kind of a C shape. If you look at the disc, watch how he's rotating and the disc makes kind of like a circular C shape. And instead what we want to do is reach all the way back. Eric, can you reach all the way back and show them for an example? Reach all the way back in a straight motion and break the door down with your elbow. So Eric, can you make that C shape again? Just like we'll see a lot of kids. If you want, like elementary years, that's okay if they're doing that as long as they're having success with the disc flying and snapping their wrist. Now when you get more in the middle years and even upper elementary, if you guys are playing a lot and you really wanted to fine tune some technique, what you can get them to do is, Eric, can you show me one more C? So I would use my hand, and I'll use my hand in this video, but in COVID times, what I'm doing now is, in these days, is I'll get a pool noodle, a short pool noodle, and I'll say, I want you to reach straight back, and now I want you to elbow my pool noodle. And that way it's creating that experience, or you're letting them experience that movement pattern of going straight back and elbowing the wall. So back and elbow the wall, letting them just have that opportunity to see that movement pattern and experience it, and then I'll get them to just do it on their own without my hand and see if they get it now. Eric, just do a back and forth motion after we've done that pool noodle exercise, and then you can take away that pool noodle and just let them do that, and then hopefully that'll help them out. here's Ezra Adderhold. Just watch how he brings his arm straight back. He's not making a C. He's bringing it straight back, and then watch, he's going to break the door down with his elbow. But you can see how the arm is back and forth in a nice straight line. Here he comes, he breaks the door down with his elbow, and now he's following through. Another mistake you may come across with your students is they may do a great job of bringing their disc back and their arm in a straight motion. However, they might just be heaving their disc when they're following through rather than having their wrist cocked back and flicking their wrist as they release it. Because when they release it, if they flick their wrist, that's going to create the spin and the rotation of the disc, which is actually going to propel the disc farther and cause it to glide through the air. Because if they just bring it back and forth and they fall through and do what we're asking them, but they're not flicking their wrist, it's just going to go flat in the air and it's just going to wobble eventually and just die off. Versus if they flick the wrist, it's going to be able to spin and glide through the air. Now with elementary students, I just give them a bit of a reminder. If they're just still doing very minimal of a wrist flick, as long as they're having success, I usually leave them alone. Unless we're doing the unit a little longer or it's club and we're doing more practicing, so then I'll really work on that specifically with them. High school, you definitely want to be probably talking to them about this, really making sure their wrist is cocked before they even start their throw or during their reach back, and then snapping their wrists and releasing and letting their fingertips be the last things that are coming off the disc to really allow for that spin of the disc as it leaves your hand. And so if I do have a student that is struggling with this, what I'll get them to do is just practice just holding the disc and flicking it back and forth, getting them used to that motion. I'll ask them to reach back, have their wrist cocked, show me what that looks like, let them feel what that looks like, and then let them break the door with their elbow and then slowly pretend to release the disc and snap their wrist at the end of their fall through. Another thing you can do is just get them to practice snapping their wrist and throwing it like a regular frisbee, even if they're just facing forward, and just practice snapping your wrist and letting it glide even a few feet in front of you. Even pulling out a regular frisbee and just playing catch and snapping your wrist, playing pass back and forth to one another. Okay, well, have fun. Try that out.